to have a portion of my portfolio on a system that's just it's irrefutably doing what it does, and you either see it or you don't. You either looked into it or you didn't. Like what else are you speculating on in that sense? So to have a position like that, and I feel like the mechanics of the system protect itself. It's just a perfect synergy between capital flows. So I'm very excited for where we are with Pulse Chain. I'm excited for Pulse Chain. I'm excited for Richard Hart to be free from both. None of those other things are securities. None of those other things are labeled securities. They're doing ETFs for all these things. Richard never did anything wrong to anybody. So I'm very excited. And the biggest chains in the world are EVM chains. So to me, it just smells like opportunity. It just breathes opportunity. You know, do you want to have something highly speculative but solid? I think so. That's what it is.
That's what we hold, I believe.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we are finding out, actually.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah, we're moving up day after day, practically day after day, up against Pulse Chain.
Right now, we should be having one of those smash the freaking all-time high, like, buy fests is what we should be doing. And just blah, hitting that freaking chart with some Pulse Chain.
Nice. Dude, now yeah. Bro, perfect. You said it. That's it. That's why I'm not trying to fudge you. I'm trying to, first of all, save your ass from like being miserable for a year. Fine. If it's not working out right now. Right now is not the time. Richard doesn't like feel like this is fine. Okay, cool. Make that clear. If Richard straight up told everyone after the top, guys, all the stuff's going on with the SEC, I for sure 100% will not, under any circumstances, this is not FUD, this is reality, signed in blood, like, sealed in blood, whatever. I am not deploying any funds into this chain for a year. Wouldn't everyone just be like, oh, cool, we'll just go over there for now? And then in a year, when you decide to like do whatever you're doing, we'll come back. Like, we're not going to totally forget about it, but we're also not going to be like sitting here getting destroyed. Pulse Chain, Hex, Richard Hart, not the prettiest girl at the party this cycle. Let's be real. Hex, right before its run up, also not the prettiest girl at the party. Became the top performing coin very quickly, made a lot of people a lot of money. Everyone was super happy. Translated into this new thing, this next thing, Pulse Chain. Everything good that you've seen built around Hex and Richard has come out of those few months, just those few months when Hex ended up doing 100, 1000x, wherever you want to measure from. Everything materialized from there. But if you had just held ETH, you would have had 4 times as much Hex and still gotten in on 100x gains. Like none of this stuff was guaranteed. The fact that it ever made it as big as it was a miracle. It wasn't like destined to be and look like, everything Richard touches is gold. Everybody was against Richard. Like exactly the kind of treatment that I got today not from everyone, but from a lot of people. That's exactly what people said about Richard too. You're fudding, you're this, you're that, you're just crying, you're okay. Everyone said that about Richard too. And guess what? His thing worked. Now, why did it work? Well, back then, when that cycle started, ETH was like $200 and it went up to like $6,000. The amount of unrealized or the amount of profit in the system at that point in crypto, Bitcoin was topping 60, 70K. Like it was insane. Like not even that. It took a year. And once everybody realized that, hey, ETH is top or Bitcoin's topping, then ETH had its top. Then that's where Hex absolutely blew up. That's what happened. So now we're in a cycle 2. We're in a completely different cycle, completely different parameters here, and everyone just sort of expects like, well, hey, happened last time. Oh, it's just going to happen again. Completely different ball game. Hex was on Ethereum, where all of the unrealized profit was. Right? People were looking for that last thing at the end of the season, right at the end of the run, to just to compound their gains. There was this giant community developing around Richard. And by the way, like Richard, it's not like Richard was streaming every day. Like most of Richard's streams, if you go back and look, had to do with the price going up, right? Like during a lot of that bull run, Richard wasn't there either. There was a few, but like not that much. right? But as Hex started doing good, he started going live, got more attention, the views went up, more people came in, there's tons of profit out there, and it just became this crazy blow off top in Hex. Like I said, made a ton of people rich, everybody did great. That's what proved, like, that's what solidified Richard's spot in crypto. That wasn't a thing before that happened. Like, a lot of people liked them, a lot of people hated them, but that's what it was, right? Now we've been sort of handed off this pulse chain thing. Richard's not here. Richard's dealing with some other shit, and we get that. Now it's up to us to carry that torch. And I would say, like, on a scale from 1 to 10, like, we're at about a 2 of how well we are carrying that torch. We are doing a piss poor job. Like, most of the people, like, honestly, after today, I don't really care that much. You know, I'm gonna see it move. Take my positions. I'm gonna do what I do, and that's it. Like, I don't need to be around, like, babysitting people, trying to explain, hey, this is what's going on. This is why you should be careful. Oh, this guy is scamming you in the community. Yeah, let's get him out of here. Like, I don't care. Like, if there's enough people who get lied to over and over and over, and they still continue to believe and invest their money and continue to lose, then you deserve to lose it. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't help you. You know, we had the community around Hex. Here, the last thing I'll say about Hex is this: what Hex managed to create during those few months, right before, like, the sacks started being taken, like, right around that time frame when it was topping, everybody was happy. That community effect is going to be very hard to create ever again. Like, ever again. Yeah, the price might come back. This might happen. Like, but that community effect, you are not going to see that happen in crypto probably ever again. Why? There's no loyalty to any of this stuff anymore, guys. You got to understand. Nobody cares. All they care about is green candles. That's it. Right? Now you have more organization around, hey, are you launching on Solana or ETH, right? And you kind of have the factions there. But even on Solana, nobody can really agree. Like, what is the coin we want to buy, right? Like, I would say since Hex, you had, like, Pepe. Like, Pepe really got people together, got the memes flowing, like, but still, it was not what Hex was. And people probably don't remember it. If you didn't live through it, it's going to be hard for me to even kind of relay that to you in words, what that was actually like, right? So that's the real value of this entire thing. Like, that's when, like, community mattered. Now, not so much. Like, all you have to do now is change your PFP, put a couple tickers in your bio, and people like you. That's it. That's all you got to do. You don't even have to own the coin. You know how many people just clout chase or clout farm all, like, whatever ticker is going up that week? They might not even have the coin. They don't care. You think they're gonna have any qualms about dumping it like a week later? No, not at all. In Hex, you had this, like, ethos that, yeah, we're gonna lock it up for 15 years. Terrible idea, by the way. I hope none of you guys actually did that. Not a very responsible financial decision. And you see that because the people who are telling you to do that are absolutely destroyed right now. Like, it doesn't help anybody. This is kind of the point, guys. Like, you have to do one of two things. You either have to keep capital within the system, right? There are certain things that help to do that. Buy and burns, staking, whatever, right? Keep capital in the system. Give people as little reason to sell and take their money and put it somewhere else as possible. That keeps prices high, right? That keeps selling down. That makes a demand for the asset. The whole Hex staking and all of it. I'm just saying, look, there were reasons around the Hex community where people, like, legit, the true believers, like, they were not selling. It was like GameStop mode. Like, we are never selling. That's what it was like, right? But the problem is, the people who cared about your ecosystem and your tokens the least were the ones who sold and took the money and you used it somewhere else. So when prices came down, you couldn't even buy more. What can you do? Your money's still locked up for 15 years. You can't create demand. So what's the other thing you can do? You can start onboarding people, right? Like, I don't have any money because my stuff is still locked up in there. I'm never selling. I can't make another $2-3 million real quick, right? So let's just get other people into it. Let's just do this and this and this. Cool. Well, now what's the value proposition when this thing is just in free fall? What's the real value proposition? Well, there isn't one, right? there, what people fail to recognize is that there was like a perfect combination of factors that led to the performance that Hex had. And that momentum carried on far longer than there was any reasonable, logical reason, I guess, for that to happen. Even when the price, like everyone saw the price tanking, nobody was selling. Everybody was still hyped up. I was still in those spaces, right? We were at 20 cents, 30, whatever it was, like 20 cents, 19, 15, 12, 10, 9, like, right? Nobody believed that it could happen. Well, so look, this time around with Pulse Chain, you have an even more difficult proposition. The only really valuable thing that you have is that community effect from before. And I'll tell you what, when things start to rip, you see it everywhere on Twitter. You can't miss it. Hexicans everywhere. People who are dormant now, you'll see it. Like it's just this thing that happens around Hex because the community was so strong, had so much fun, and grew so large, right? The problem is when things aren't going well, those people aren't around, right? They're not around. And it's easy to sort of start to get sidetracked and forget that, look, that's kind of all we got here. Like, there's no revenue, there's no company, there's no foundation, there's no one paying for devs. There's none of this stuff exists. None of it. And now you don't even have a shred of direction from the founder kind of being like, look, here's what's going on. And I get it. I understand why he's not doing it, right? I'll talk about Richard for a little bit. So the fact that I could put out a post that's explaining here is an actual plan. Here are things that we need to look for. These are the real onboarding cues for this chain. We have the challenge is way bigger this time. It's not about one coin anymore, right? It's about it's not about one coin anymore. You have to take your capital and move it to a different chain. People don't want to do that. They don't want to unless there's a very good reason to do it. I know that like internally from the people who like Richard and believe in this, you are willing to do it. Okay, great. Let's look at the chart. That chart, that amount in the wallet, in the bridge, that is how much is willing to do it for no indications. That's how much. Not a very large amount. That's the problem. So either everyone who's in now has to go find a few more $1 million and go bridge it in again to their underwater bags and somehow justify that to themselves, but you don't have it. It's just you don't have it. Like I'm sorry, you don't have it. It's not like everybody's is just like pumping on Solana right now and like yeah, it's not happening. It's not coming. Look, I'm not looking like so here's one response, and I'm just gonna go through the thread. So like this is like the meat and potatoes of it, of what I want to talk about. So one comment that I get a lot, right? Anytime I say something that's not like mindless hype nonsense, and I reached out, like I don't want to sit in spaces. I'd rather chill. I'd rather talk about totally different things. There are so many events going on in this world that require our attention far beyond that are so much more important than any of this stuff. I would rather talk about that stuff. This isn't really on top of my mind right now, right? But look, going through everything, I figured here's this opportunity, right? Because the market conditions are the way that they are, there is a window between now and the election, now till the end of the year, to re-energize this ecosystem. But here are the things that have to happen. It's not just going to magically do it on its own and everybody's rich. It doesn't work like that. It might have seemed, this is why I talked about Hex in the beginning, because when that happened, it seemed like magic. Like, oh my God, all of a sudden we have multi-billion-dollar market caps. What the hell, right? This situation is a little bit different than that. We're not in the same place in the market. Like ETH didn't, I mean, even to the top, like what ETH did like a 3x. I mean, we're talking about like 10, 12, like 15x before. Like completely, like completely different realm. Not only that, back then you didn't have as much competition from the stuff that you have. Like, there's just so many good coins. There are tons of projects that actually put up numbers. Like, why would anybody just go into the thing that hasn't done anything, and now they have to take their coin and put on a different chain, and like there's this case thing, and every time a shred of paper comes out about this case, the market dumps. Like, nobody who wants to deal with that. You don't even want to deal with that. You're only dealing with it because you like your friends on Pulse Chain or whatever. You don't want to deal with it either if you're really honest with yourself. That sucks, guys. We wake up every day and you don't know what news is going to come out about this case, what paper is going to be released, and like that day you might lose 30% of your worth on this chain. Who wants to do that? Like, so one of the most common things. So anyway, I kind of crunched everything out, put together a plan, realized like, hey, it's not out there. The only way that this works is this one specific thing happens. If that does not happen, sure, you'll get a 10% day up, you'll get a 10% day down, you might get a 5%. Like, that's what's going to happen on this chain. And I keep it's about 60 to 90 days. Look at all the bottoms that Pulse Chain has had 60 to 90 days. So this time, after that 60 days went by, and you can see it for yourself on the chart. The last time that Pulse Chain broke down below its support level, exactly 60 days later, that was August 11th, August 12th, and that's when we had that. We had a little bit of that pump. Oh, sorry, I might actually be wrong on that. I think it was actually August 5th. Well, anyway, so look, 60 days in, right? I see that we sold off, so that's exactly what I'm expecting to happen, right? At that 60-day mark, people just tend to kind of give up. We've been on a huge downswing the entire time, and the price just pumps up overnight. I think it did like 15 or between 15 and 20% just like overnight, right? Or like in half a day. And then it fell right back down and went lower. So immediately in my mind, what do I think? I go, something is up. Like, there's no way, if the market is healthy, right, that this pattern should have flat topped and just gone even lower. Something is wrong. I start looking at the PLS ETH ratio, right? There's a reason. The only real reason for you to be in one coin or another is, well, obviously liquidity and things, but let's just say coins that have liquidity, not just like total trash, right? Is because it goes up against Bitcoin or it goes up against ETH. We're talking different scales. So if you want this ecosystem to work out, you need to think about what are the guys with tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in ETH or Sol or whatever they're in now, right? Or Bitcoin. What are they going to do? What you and your friend and your neighbor decide to buy does not matter. Does not matter. Yeah, you could kind of position yourself in, but look, people have been positioning themselves in on Pulse Chain for the last how many months? Since March. We're in August, and every week the price has been lower. So, like, cool. Like, instead of having 5 ETH worth of Pulse, now you have 1 ETH worth of Pulse. Who won? So you got to stop thinking like you and Sally and your neighbor Fred and the monkeys that got you into crypto. Don't think like them. Think like the people who actually run this, the guys with actual hundreds of millions of dollars floating around. That's what you need to do. And I'll give you guys an example of what's going on right now, so you know I'm not just telling you nonsense to waste your time, right? Why are you all of a sudden seeing all this stuff about Tron? Why? Tron is an epic piece of shit. Like, we say Solana is a piece of Tron is a piece of dog shit. Like, I'm not even saying that to be outrageous. It's junk, right? I thought Solana was the golden child, right? That was the degen move. Oh, look at all the pump fun, all this kind of stuff. Why is everybody going to Tron all of a sudden? You know why? Because Justin Sun is smart. That's why. Justin Sun is smart. He understands that when markets sell off, there's going to be an amount of capital that has to seek harbor somewhere. Yeah, a lot of people will just go into stable coins. Yes, that's going to happen too. But in crypto, it's sort of known that we flood into some low cap, so something that is priced low, right? And when enough people do this, you create kind of like this residual bull market. It doesn't last long, right? It's not like gonna take off and go up forever. But like between now and the end of the year, that's why I keep telling everyone I'm not thinking about what happens to Pulse Chain when ETH is 10K. I don't know. I don't know when ETH's going to be 10K. Like next year, 2 years, 3 years. I don't know. I'm not even worried about that right now. Let's see how can we make the most money between now and January 1st. That's what I want to do. Like, don't you? Like we could speculate all we want. ETH goes up, Pulse Chain goes up. Well, maybe not. Like when ETH went up, Hex didn't go up, and Hex was far more tied to Ethereum than Pulse Chain is to Ethereum. right? And so Justin Sun's play right now, big marketing push. He's got a bunch of capital from rugging everybody over on Tron for the past however many years, or whatever for however many months. I'm just kidding, by the way. I don't know if he's rugging people, but he does a lot of DeFi. He makes money. He's a pretty decent trader, believe it or not. So he's got all this excess. He's flush with cash. He's going to start injecting it into the chain so that every day, and like, watch it, every day that Bitcoin and ETH are red, go look at Tron. He's going to make, it might not be green by a lot, but he's going to make it look green. And so, of course, eventually people will catch on and flood into that ecosystem and have this sort of like last hurrah. And what I'm saying is, look, instead of just sitting back and watching Tron get that, obviously after it happens, the smart people will know, okay, cool, like we got to run. Tron is still a piece of shit. Let's just sell it and go back to our Solana or whatever else that we were in before, right? That's what they're going to do. Some people will stay, and that's how you end up growing the chain, right? You have this big influx of capital, you have prices, whatever, you have volatility, people make money, people lose money, some people stay, a lot of people leave. But on the chart, you're going to maybe set a new high. You're going to get some more people who are going to sit there and try to gamble their way back to like the money that they lost on the chain. Like it's all very, ingenious. So instead of Tron, why not make that Pulse chain? This is the point of my argument. And I don't think very few people, at least reading the comments, I mean, like maybe 5 out of the 40 people that I saw reply to me, like picked up on this. Pulse chain is not in a situation right now where doing nothing and just expecting it to go up is a valid strategy. Like I said, not the prettiest girl at the party right now. Maybe the ugliest, honestly. When you talk about how big investors look into building out their portfolio, well, the first thing they're going to go do is make a list of rate of return. If you guys don't do this, you can go on Coin Paprika. I think it's still called that. It lets you sort on rate of return for the past year, 6 months, whatever. And obviously, if you're looking for coins to buy that you think are going to do well, you're going to start at the top of the list. You're going to say what things did the best before, because now they're all down 50, 60%. And if they did really good, in the last cycle, they're still hot, right? Yeah, maybe they sold off, but that's what the opportunity is. Where does Pulse Chain fall on that list? At the very bottom of the list, there's no rate of return on the chain. It's negative. It's red. If you were all the market is sold down. You're looking at everything at a discount. You're going to sort it upside down and say, what are the things that did the worst? Let me start there. No, you're not. You're going to start at the top, right? That's why I'm saying that it has, not only does it have to get saved, but it has to get saved before this year closes. Otherwise, you have everyone's at a loss. And then what happens in December when everyone's at a loss? Tax loss harvesting. It's going to happen just like it did last year. That's what a lot of people up because they expected it to pump into the new year. The new year didn't pump into the new year. People were still too upside down on their bags because of their sack, because they traded, because they did all this stuff. Mostly the ecosystem was at a loss. So you got tax loss harvesting, the new year opens up, and then that's when you start pumping, right? For this year, the goal on PLS, we can talk about other coins, is 406. It depends on how long it stays at these lower prices too. Maybe it'll move down slightly. But basically, if Pulse Chain is above that price, that means the middle 80% of the traders since the top are going to be in profit or break even. No tax loss harvesting. They're not at a loss. That means they're going to have to pay taxes on it that year, which they're not going to want to do. If we're below that, or even where we are now or lower, of course people are going to dump it just to claim the tax benefit from doing so, just to write that off, and then we'll get into the next year. Again, I'm just talking about now till the end of the year. That's it. What happens next year all depends how we finish. That's what matters. There's an opportunity to get people into the chain now, the same way Tron is doing it, the same way Justin Sun is doing it, except no one has hundreds of millions of dollars here. Anyway, so how do we get real money, people with brains, to come and pay attention to Pulse Chain? The Pulse has to go up against the ETH. It would be great if it went up against Bitcoin. And why is Solana doing so good? Oh, because it's degens and pump fun. No, Go look at the Solana Bitcoin ratio. The Solana Bitcoin ratio is flat, meaning Solana is tracking Bitcoin to a T, even better than Ethereum is. So that's why people are sticking with Solana. It's doing just as good as Bitcoin, which is doing out of the major markets, it's doing the best. Much better. I mean, 8% over ETH for the past month, right? If you go look at ETH BTC, you're going to see a pretty clear downtrend, right? ETH has been giving up ground to Bitcoin, and Solana has been eating it up. That's why everybody's over there. They're just making you think, oh yeah, well it's because of Pump Fund. I better go throw some money in there. The success rate of making money on Pump Fund is like 0.2 or 0.02%. That's how many coins make. This ratio of POS to ETH has not changed in about 11 weeks at the point when I first presented it, right? And the reason I brought it up was because that week there was actually a breakout on the POS ETH ratio. And so usually the first time that happens, that's just kind of like, that should set off like an alert, like, hey, pay attention. That doesn't mean you FOMO. That doesn't mean that you just load up the truck. When that happens, you're like, okay, there's signs of life here. This is something worth watching. Since then, it came right back down to that area of support around like 72, it's about 71 million POS per ETH. And it's just kind of sitting there, right? The other day. And so obviously what we want to see is for that like indication that, hey, we can get a much higher PLS ETH value ratio for that to re-engage. That's how we get an uptrend against ETH. You don't have to like sell people on your what Richard did or what Richard said. You just show them the chart. You go, hey, our thing is kicking ETH right now. That's all you do. Maybe some of your degen friends aren't going to get it, but the guys who actually hold the bags, they'll get that. Trust me, they'll get that. And then you have a reason to go take the risk of bridging it over to Pulse Chain. You know there's a big community behind it, and once you get enough of like an activation energy into it, it's gonna run. That's what we all want, right? Well, I hope so. You know, the idea. This is the last thing I'll say about it. I'll just go through the thread real quick. For some reason, there's become this belief that things in crypto just happen. They just occur. Like one day the price is here and I bought some, and the next day I'm like a multi-millionaire because the just price went up so high. Yeah, it went up so high because someone injected tens or hundreds of millions of dollars into it. It's not like a whoopsie, like, you know, oh, somebody fat fingered something, right? Like all of a sudden there's $100 million on the chain. No, right? Like these are very deliberate acts. They're done with purpose. There's a reason it happens. It's not, it might seem like magic if you're kind of new and you just don't know yet, but you'll learn, right? Without that, forget about your 10x's, forget about your 5x's, forget about it, right? We have to sort of understand, like, is this like are we expecting 1 billion, 10 million, 100 million? The fortunate thing for Pulse Chain right now is that it's so sold off, it's so oversold that even $50 million makes a giant difference. $100 million would probably do about a 3x on the chain right now. On like the actual coins, like what happens to meme coins, I don't know. Anything can happen. They can pump, they cannot pump. Who knows, right? But I'm telling you, like this, the core coins, and the reason they're the core coins, you don't have to like Richard. You don't have to like his projects. That's where all the liquidity is. If you hate Pulse, if you don't be on Pulse Chain, everything on Pulse Chain is priced in Pulse. If your Pulse is worth more, your thing is going to be worth more. It's just that simple. But what has happened over the past few months, when Pulse wasn't going down, people figured out that, hey, you know what? We can't really fight Pulse Chain going down because we don't have millions of dollars to buy up buy up everything that's getting dumped on the market. Why don't we just get together and concentrate our capital into these select few projects, and we'll go on Twitter and blast it out, and like it'll be great, and it'll look like our thing is going up against Pulse. Tangang did that very successfully. I commend them for doing this. Great play, great, executed well, but did it last? It can't last. It could only go on for so long. And when I saw that, hey, we're starting to kind of cross those streams, right? Like now those coins are actually losing value against Pulse. That is your cue to exit. You can love the coins, you can love the social stuff, the NFTs, cool, great. Retain your capital, retain it. The people who came in and pumped your bags, that wasn't you. That was all the people chasing you. You know them as the cabal or whatever you want to call them, right? And when the stuff goes down enough, I don't know how genius or mathematical or aware they are. So I'm sure someone over there knows what they're doing, at least one person, that's all it takes, right? They took everything you guys work hard to build. That sucks. So the right thing, like if you love it, was to sell it. I know it's like a terrible thing to think about, but then you retain the capital and you get to decide when this stuff pumps again. Or do you concentrate it somewhere else? Make another set of coins. Go to base with it. I don't know. But you kind of give up that, though, you know, you kind of don't have that option if someone else came in and just, you know, extracted all the liquidity from you. Like at that point, you're just in the same boat as everyone else. Anyway, the point there is this. Yes, if the value of the underlying asset, the utility token on the chain, the most liquid assets there are, that's where the most money is, falls, well, guess what? Everything tied to it will eventually fall too. Can't get around it. So if you don't believe in Pulse, you don't believe in anything Richard's doing, enjoy your pumps, but retain your capital. It's inevitable. Where it's not necessarily inevitable is when, like, it goes the other way. Pulse chain pumps and people don't decide to buy your coin again. They don't have to decide to buy your coin again. There's no short interest. There's none of that, right? That's where you have to be careful. That did not pan out the way you thought it would. It's not worth it, you know. And we can always come back around to it. Listen, in a year or two, and this shit's resolved, other things happen, and we get another window like this. Sure, I would. I'm not going to put like a never ever on Pulse chain. I still think that, like, you know, it'll always have that potential. Like, it'll always have that potential. I don't think that's going to go away. And if that means that you're going to lose a year of like compounding and getting a piece of the pie out of crypto, it is not worth it. It's not worth it. And I'll be here. Like, listen, if we see things like really turn around, check in.